For my wedding, parents and sister kept saying there's a surprise, so just wait. On the wedding day, none of my family showed up. Instead, there was a video of them on a European trip with the message, "She won't be hurt by this." I didn't contact them at all, but after I posted photos with my in-laws, I got 290 calls. It's wonderful to escape from being stressed by her wedding. These are the kind of posts I would end up seeing from my family members who didn't show up to my wedding. My relationship with my family has always been awkward. When I stepped into my family home one day, the conversation in the living room where my family was relaxing suddenly stopped. My brother Benjamin and his wife Camila exchanged meaningful glances, and my mother Diana put on a stiff smile. "Oh, Eliza, you're unusually early today," my mother said. "Is work finished?" I let out a small sigh. "Yes, I finished early today. I wanted to have dinner at home." My father Victor snorted without looking up from his newspaper. "Oh, a miracle. Our lawyer deigns to look up from her law books." "Dad," as I was about to speak, Benjamin interrupted. "Eliza, tell me about your meeting this morning. Did you sue another company?" He then explained to his wife Camila, "Eliza only talks about numbers. She has a special talent for ruining the mood at parties." Camila laughed softly. "That's right. At the last holiday party, she went on and on about contract clauses. Half of the guests left. I tried to make an excuse but gave up. Conversations with my family were always like this." At the dinner table, Benjamin's children were running around, Camila was enthusiastically talking about summer vacation plans, and my father and mother occasionally nodded. Even when I tried to avoid work topics and have a normal conversation, silence quickly fell. "Eliza is always too serious," Camila interjected. "You should learn to have a little fun. Life isn't just about work." Benjamin made an exaggerated gesture toward his children. "Look, kids, don't be like your aunt, always work, work, work. She even forgets how to smile." The children laughed innocently, and I lowered my eyes to my glass of water. They should have known that I was helping with their living expenses, this despite me paying for my own law school tuition and building my own career. But in their eyes I was just the boring, serious eldest daughter. That night, as I was leaving, my father unusually called out to me. "By the way, about the cost of Benjamin's birthday party next month, you'll help out a bit, won't you?" I nodded quietly. My relationship with my family was always like this. My value of existence was proportional to the thickness of my wallet. But the day would come when my family's attitude would change dramatically. This mess started about 2 months ago. My father, Victor, began acting strange whenever conversations about my upcoming wedding came up. He wasn't acting strange in a bad way, but he was certainly secretive in a suspicious way. Whispering on the phone, closing his laptop when I walked into his office, that sort of thing. My sister-in-law Camila started giving me these little smiles and saying stuff like, "Eliza, you're going to love what we're planning for your big day." Even my brother Benjamin, who's usually too absorbed in his investment banking work to care about family stuff, was dropping hints. I'm not going to lie. It got me excited. "Your wedding is supposed to be a milestone, right?" My family wasn't wealthy, and I was independent, so I wasn't expecting anything extravagant. All the secrecy had me thinking maybe they were planning an amazing bridal shower or rehearsal dinner. My father kept telling me to be patient whenever I tried to fish for details. To be honest, I was surprised that my family showed interest in my marriage. "I'm planning to have a family dinner to introduce my fiancé. You absolutely have to come, Dad," I insisted over the phone a month ago. "Of course, Eliza," my father answered. "I'll definitely come if work finishes early." However, on the promised day he sent me a message. "I'm sorry, but I forgot I had a golf appointment with my friend Bob. Let's meet on the wedding day." I sighed. This wasn't the first time. My father always prioritized his work and hobbies over important events in my life. And so, the dinner with my fiancé got cancelled due to my father's scheduling conflict. On my wedding day, no one was at the venue. I couldn't see my family anywhere. Mom, Dad, Benjamin, Camila, Adrian, and Sophia. None of them had come. I stood there in my dress, holding my bouquet, staring at the empty rows. Something might have happened, I thought, and called my father on my cell phone. It got rejected. The same thing happened when I called my mother. I sent texts to Benjamin and Camila, but there was no reply. James, my husband-to-be, squeezed my hand. His calm eyes reassured me. "Eliza, don't worry, something must have happened. They wouldn't intentionally not come," he said. James's suit was tailor-made, and his gentle smile was just for me. His parents looked concerned, but James was decisive, and we decided to proceed with the ceremony as planned. Feeling the absence of my family, I said, "I do," in front of the empty rows. James's hand firmly held mine, and the look in his eyes told me that I was enough, even without my family. The wedding was still completed successfully without my family. However, I couldn't sit still thinking about them. After returning to our new home with James after the ceremony, I remembered I actually have an Instagram account. I don't post much, I just follow my family members' accounts to check on their lives sometimes. And there it was, posted 3 hours earlier, a photo of my entire family: Dad, Benjamin, Camila, Mom, Adrian, and Sophia, all smiling in front of a medieval chateau, wineglasses raised at an exclusive French estate. Benjamin had captioned it, "The perfect family vacation without her." The comments made my blood boil. Dad replied with, "She's too busy anyway," and a laughing emoji. Camila added something about career-obsessed women not appreciating family traditions. Mom commented, "It's wonderful to escape from being stressed by her wedding." She was there in the photos, looking completely relaxed in her designer sunglasses. James held me tightly. Looking at the photos together, he seemed unable to contain his anger. "I can't believe they would do this." He frowned. "Eliza, this shows how little they value you. But I'm different. You mean everything to me." He sat beside me and gently stroked my hair as he saw my trembling hands hold a glass. "No one has the right to hurt you. You're an amazing person. I'm lucky to be able to see what they don't deserve to see." His words were comforting, but the pain in my heart didn't disappear. I sat there for I don't know how long, my throat tight, just scrolling through more photos they'd posted: vineyard tours, river cruises, family portraits, all time stamped in geo tagged to a shadow I'd never even heard of starting 2 days earlier. I don't know what kicked in: shock, rage, or some weird sense of calm, but I didn't call them, didn't text, didn't comment on the photos. Just poured another glass of champagne with my trembling hands and started thinking. Thinking hard. James brought hot chocolate from the kitchen and sat next to me. He gave me advice on gathering evidence from his perspective as a company executive. In situations like this, it's important to act based on facts, rather than being swept away by emotions. He said, "As an excellent lawyer, you probably understand. But now we need to keep records of everything from a legal perspective." He took out his tablet and logged into the company's internal system. "I shouldn't really be showing you this," he said, hesitantly. "This is your father's activity record at our company. It shows how his decisions have negatively impacted us." At that moment, I realized for the first time that he wasn't just an executive, but at the top level of the company. The access to the information he showed me was not something a normal executive would have. "James, are you?" He smiled slightly. "Yes, I was recently promoted. It's not officially announced yet, but I've become your father's direct superior. Actually, I've become the CEO." I was surprised, but he quickly added, "But there's something more important right now, and that's to protect you. I can't allow them to treat you like this." His kindness and determination gave me strength. The first thing I did was to check the bank account that I've been using to support my family's living expenses. As expected, $400 was transferred to my father's personal account last Friday. I scrolled back through older social media posts and found out Mom had been making comments about a special family retreat for weeks. So this wasn't spontaneous, this was planned without me, planned around me, planned despite my wedding. By midnight, my hurt had transformed into white-hot determination. I opened my laptop and started documenting everything. Screenshots of posts, financial transfers, a timeline of the lies they'd told me about wedding surprises. I rarely cry, but I felt hot tears burning behind my eyes, not sad tears, angry ones. "What do you think we should do now?" I asked James while looking at the computer. "First, let's prepare to protect yourself legally. Then, when the time comes, we'll show them the truth. But for now, let's rest. Tomorrow will be a long day." He put his arm around my shoulder and led me to the bedroom. 3 days after the wedding, I suddenly received messages from my family. Dad texted asking if I was upset about something. Camila called twice. Benjamin sent a message saying, "Dad's getting worried, can you just respond?" I didn't answer. Instead, I posted my first Instagram photo in months, just me at my apartment, with wedding sample decorations I'd selected myself. No caption, no tags, just a date stamp. That's when the flood began. At exactly 9:44 p.m., my phone exploded with notifications. Message after message came. Dad was in complete panic mode. Benjamin actually sounded concerned for once. Camila sent voice messages that grew increasingly desperate. By midnight, I counted 290 messages across all platforms: texts, WhatsApp, Instagram DMs, emails, even voicemails. The last one from Dad just said, "We're coming back tomorrow. We need to talk." James was sitting next to me in the living room, watching my expression with concern. Actually, James made his move the day after our wedding. He woke up early that day, and after taking a shower, he quietly made a phone call in the corner of the living room. I was still in bed, just waking up from the previous day's fatigue. I noticed that his tone was different from usual. It was business-like and calm, yet it had an unwavering strength. "Yes, Victor," I heard James's voice. "The decision remains unchanged. From Monday, you will be transferred to the regional branch. Your future will be considered based on your performance there." I was fully awake the moment I heard him say my father's name. Jumping out of bed and heading to the living room, I saw James holding the phone with a serious expression. He saw me, gave a small nod, and continued the call. "No, this is not personal. It's purely a matter of performance and compliance," he said calmly. "Your department has failed to meet targets for 3 consecutive quarters. Furthermore, there have been violations of the company's ethics code." The voice from the phone grew louder. It sounded like my father was shouting. James remained calm and switched the phone to speaker mode. "You don't have the authority." My father's voice echoed throughout the room. "I've supported this company for 20 years. You're just a victor," James calmly interrupted. "I was officially appointed as the CEO 3 months ago. All personnel decisions are within my authority." After a moment of silence, my father's voice changed. This time it was mixed with fear. "Wait, James. There must be some misunderstanding. You skipped a family wedding to go on a European vacation," James said sternly. "Our company upholds the value of cherishing family. You fail to uphold even that basic principle." "Wedding?" My father's voice sounded confused. "What wedding?" James looked at me, his expression softening slightly. "Eliza's wedding. Your daughter's." On the other end of the phone, something fell. Then my mother's voice was heard from a distance. "Victor, what happened? Eliza's wedding? Why would—" My father sounded completely shocked. James reached out to me, and I sat next to him. "I am James Ryan, your superior and your son-in-law." After a complete silence, frantic voices were heard from the phone. It seemed like my father was hurriedly explaining something to my mother. Benjamin's voice could also be heard in the background. They were clearly agitated. But, my father returned to the phone, his voice now trembling. "Why didn't anyone tell me? That Eliza and you, I didn't know. We sent the invitations 3 months ago." I spoke for the first time. There was no response. "I also called Mom to confirm, but was told you were busy." "Eliza?" My father gasped. "You were there. Listen, this is all a misunderstanding. We were just on vacation. I didn't know your fiancé was James, or that he was my boss." At that moment, there was a sudden movement on the other end of the phone, and we could hear Benjamin's voice. "James, Eliza, listen. We learned in Europe that Dad was being demoted. Everyone was upset, and we tried to contact you, but you canceled my wedding," I said in an icy voice. "You didn't think about the most important event in my life at all." "Eliza," my mother started speaking. "We were just enough," James said before hanging up. "Victor, I expect a report from the regional branch on Monday." When the call ended, I buried my face in my knees. James sat beside me and put his arm around my shoulders. "Honestly, I didn't think your father wouldn't recognize me. He had met me in board meetings and should have known I was a member of the management team. I guess he really didn't consider you in his life at all, Eliza." Paul's words pierced my heart. My father couldn't even remember my fiancé's face. 3 hours later, our smartphones kept ringing. 290 desperate messages from my father, mother, Benjamin, and Camila. They suddenly realized my importance, because my husband had the power to affect their livelihood. What are you going to do? James asked, gently stroking my shoulder. I'll ignore them, I said with determination. Just as they ignored my wedding, I'll ignore their messages. James smiled slightly and kissed me. I finally understood. They didn't even know who my fiancé was. In the past, I felt like I was only a supporting character for my family, but now I have finally become the protagonist, and with my partner James, I was ready to start a new life. I've been loyal to my family for years. Never once have I deliberately ignored my father when he needed legal help. We spent that evening building my legal protection strategy. I called my bank and removed my family members' access to my accounts. Around midnight, I discovered an email thread between Dad and Benjamin from 2 weeks earlier. Dad, should we even tell Eliza about the France trip? Benjamin, why bother? She'll just worry about her wedding. Dad, true LOL. It's not like she ever focuses on anything but legal matters anyway. Benjamin, she probably won't notice we're gone until after her wedding. Dad, I think you're right. LOL. That was the moment something inside me crystallized. I'd been holding on to a tiny hope that maybe everything was just a big misunderstanding, but that email destroyed it. On the day they were supposed to return, I was waiting in my apartment. James said he had work and promised to join me in the evening. At 4:32 p.m., I heard multiple voices in the elevator of my building. The wheels of suitcases rolled on marble and the intercom rang. I slowly responded. When I opened the door, there was an unnatural scene of jet-lagged, exhausted faces forcing cheerful smiles. My father was clutching a gift bag that had obviously not been in his original luggage. Eliza? My father said, in a forcefully bright voice. Why didn't you answer the phone? I wanted to ask you about my job. I stared at them with a cold expression. My mother looked apologetic, and Camila was staring at the floor. Only Benjamin hadn't completely abandoned his somewhat arrogant attitude. As tense conversation began at the doorway, the elevator doors opened again, and James appeared. Wearing a suit, his expression was stern when he saw my father. Victor, he said calmly. My father's face was drained of color. James? He choked. Is it true what was written in that email? Are you together? James stood next to me and put his arm around my shoulder. Victor, I am Eliza's husband. The wedding was 4 days ago. You were invited, but it seems you prioritize your vacation in France. My father's face was twisted with fear and confusion. Eliza, is he really my company? CEO? I said calmly. Yes, he is. But you know what? You chose traveling over my wedding. And now, you've come to complain about James demoting you? Benjamin stepped forward. Eliza, listen. We didn't know your fiancé was actually Dad's boss. Otherwise, that has to be a blatant lie. I said firmly. James' promotion was decided last month. His name was circulating in the company emails. The reason you know nothing about my fiancé is because you have no interest in my life, my father said in a trembling voice. Eliza, we're family. Family helps each other, right? James calmly said. Victor, someone who doesn't value family has no right to talk about family. As those words echoed in the hallway, complete silence fell. My father's shoulders slumped, and despair spread across his face. My mother covered her mouth with her hand, letting out an uncontrollable sob. Even Benjamin lost his usual arrogance and dropped his gaze to the floor. I notified you when you were in France last week, James continued calmly. Employees who don't value family are not needed in the company. You are to be demoted to a rural subsidiary. It was only after you received that notice that you suddenly started to care about your daughter's wedding. Camila said in a small voice. We didn't know. Victor suddenly said we had to go back. James looked at her, his expression softening slightly. Please leave now. Eliza has been hurt enough. My father took a step back and dropped the gift bag. Its contents were scattered on the floor, but no one tried to pick them up. My crying mother grabbed my father's arm and pulled him toward the elevator. Eliza, Benjamin said finally. Can I talk? Get out, I said quietly but firmly. They slumped their shoulders and hung their heads as they entered the elevator. The last scene visible through the closing doors was my father's devastated expression and my mother's tears-soaked face. Benjamin was supporting Camilla, who was crying like a child. When the door closed, James gently embraced me. Are you okay? He asked kindly. I'm fine, I answered. I'm no longer an invisible presence. That's all I need. Looking out the window, I could see them walking through the lobby with heavy steps toward a taxi. My father no longer looked arrogant, he just looked like an old man. Watching them get into the taxi and drive away in the rain, I felt true freedom for the first time. 1 month after the wedding, their situation had visibly deteriorated. James and I were having coffee at the breakfast table, discussing my father's situation. On James's laptop was my father's performance report, and the numbers were harsh. He only lasted 2 weeks at the regional branch, James said quietly. He was late every day, and even fell asleep in meetings. Yesterday, he formally submitted his resignation. I picked up my coffee cup and stared at the steam, as expected. James took my hand. Do you regret it? No. I shook my head. They made their choices. I just made mine. As we were preparing to go to work after breakfast, my new phone rang. It was my mother's number. After exchanging glances with James, I answered on speaker mode. Eliza, please listen. My mother's voice sounded tired and thin. Your father quit his job. We're financially struggling. We can't make our mortgage payments, and our credit card debt is growing. Could you help us a little? James silently looked at me, nodding slightly to indicate that he was leaving this decision to me. How much do you need? I asked calmly. About $3,000 this month? My mother said in a small voice. It's temporary. Your father will find a new job soon. I struggled to contain my laughter. $3,000. Almost exactly the same amount as their luxury hotel bill in France. Tell me honestly why you need the money, I said. I told you, mortgage and the real reason. I interrupted her. What is father trying to do after James demoted him? After a long silence, my mother sighed. He has contacted a competitor. He's planning to sell confidential information from James' company. We need money for a lawyer. I could see James's expression hardening. He quickly began taking notes, and gestured that he would contact the legal department. I see, that was all I said. Mom, you just admitted to conspiracy and corporate espionage and industrial spying. This call is being recorded. Eliza. My mother gasped. How could you record a family conversation? How ironic, I said coldly. A family who chose traveling over my wedding is now bringing up family. That evening, James and I were drinking wine on the penthouse balcony, gazing at the city lights. He put his arm around my shoulder and pulled me close. What do you think? I asked. Do you think they'll give up? They have nothing left to lose, James said quietly. That's the most dangerous kind of person. 2 days later, I received a direct call from my father. Eliza, his voice was strangely calm. I need some financial assistance. It's temporary. I'll pay it back soon. James and I were listening on speakerphone again. He had already contacted a lawyer and started preparing a restraining order. How much do you need? I asked. $5,000, he said without hesitation. As family, as a daughter, helping out that much is only natural, right? I looked at James. He just shook his head. Dad, do you understand how dangerous the gamble you're taking is? I asked quietly. James took everything from me. He suddenly shouted. My position, my dignity, even my daughter. He should be punished. Your problem has always been that you're self-centered, I said. I am not a thing, not a possession to be taken. I made my own choices. Did you know he was the CEO? My father said in a trembling voice. Did you marry him knowing he was my boss? I married him knowing who he is, I answered. Because he is kind, honest, and respects me, things you never showed me? The phone went silent and was then disconnected. The next morning, the news was shocking. My father had been arrested for compliance violations and attempted sale of corporate secrets. According to a report from the company security, my mother and Camila were crying at home. What should I have done? I asked James. I could have stopped them. James touched my cheek and said gently, Eliza, these were their choices, not your responsibility. That afternoon, I formally applied for a restraining order through my lawyer against my parents, Benjamin and Camilla. I couldn't let those who were destroying their own lives to destroy mine as well. You forgot my existence, I wrote in my final email. Now it's my turn to forget yours. From that day, I created a new phone number, a new email address, and a new beginning. James supported me throughout the process, and at night, he held me in his arms and whispered, "You're not alone. I am your family." 6 months later, we bought a new house. A beautiful house by the lake, away from the city's hustle and bustle. James successfully reorganized the company, and I was promoted to chief legal officer. The only traces of my former family were the occasional documents from the court. The demands for gifts from Adrian and Sophia were gone, and I was free. The family bonds were broken, but James and I were building a new family. A family where I was visible. Every night after dinner, James and I would drink wine and talk about future plans, and once a month, we would have dinner with James's parents and dream about our own family. And sometimes his casual words gave me a sense of security I had never experienced before. "You are my everything, Eliza."
My parents criticized me in front of everyone at my Golden Sisters promotion party. But I cut ties. I, 42 Fahrenheits, have always lived in the shadow of my sister Maya, 47 Fahrenheits, growing up in an affluent Boston suburb. We were raised by parents, both late 70s, who placed an overwhelming emphasis on achievement and social status. While we both excelled academically, Maya was always portrayed as the crown jewel of our family, and I was merely an afterthought. From my earliest memories, this dynamic was crystal clear. On Maya's birthdays, our parents would organize elaborate parties, inviting the children of their social circle's most prominent families. My birthdays, in contrast, were often forgotten or marked with a hasty card and a reminder that we already spent too much on Maya's party this year. This pattern continued throughout our education. When Maya got into an elite private high school, our parents threw a celebration that lasted an entire weekend. When I received a merit scholarship to an equally prestigious school 2 years later, they merely commented that at least we won't have to pay for this one. Every achievement of mine was measured against Maya's and found wanting. During our college years, the disparity became even more pronounced. Our parents paid for Maya's full tuition at Yale Law School, including a comfortable apartment and living expenses. When it came to my education, they informed me that they had already allocated their resources to Maya's law school fund, suggesting I take out loans or find a less expensive career path. Despite this, I worked multiple jobs, secured scholarships, and graduated with honors in computer science. As we entered our professional lives, Maya followed the path our parents had meticulously planned for her, joining a prestigious law firm and climbing the corporate ladder exactly as expected. I carved my own path in the tech industry, building a career through determination and raw talent rather than family connections. The dynamics at family gatherings were always tense. Our parents would parade Maya around, introducing her as a more successful daughter while treating me as if I was invisible. When relatives asked about my career, our mother would quickly change the subject, or make dismissive comments like, "Oh, she does something with computers." The constant emotional abuse was subtle but relentless. Despite everything, I managed to build a respectable career. By my early 40s, I had secured a position as a middle manager at a growing tech company, leading a team of developers and earning a comfortable six-figure salary. But in our parents' eyes, this paled in comparison to Maya's achievements as a lawyer. 3 years ago, everything came to a head at Maya's promotion party. She had just made senior partner at her firm, the youngest in the firm's history, as our parents repeatedly reminded everyone. They had rented out the grand ballroom of the Fairmont Copley Plaza, inviting over 200 guests from Boston's elite social circles. I remember every excruciating detail of that evening. The elaborate flower arrangements, the champagne towers, the string quartet playing in the corner. Our parents had spared no expense to celebrate their golden child's success. I sat at my assigned table, somewhat removed from the main family table, trying to maintain a dignified presence despite feeling like an outsider at what was supposed to be a family celebration. When our father stood up to give his speech, I expected the usual praise for Maya, but what followed was beyond anything I could have imagined. Standing before the entire gathering of Boston's legal and social elite, he began by calling Maya their greatest blessing. That part wasn't surprising. I'd long accepted that she was their golden child. But then he started joking about how they should have stopped having children after Maya, because the second ones are usually useless anyway. The room erupted in laughter as he continued, saying they could have invested all their time and resources in Maya, instead of wasting them on me. My mother stood beside him, nodding and smiling, adding that at least they had one child they could be proud of. The worst part wasn't even their words, it was watching the faces of everyone around me, seeing them laugh as if my public humiliation was nothing more than light entertainment. I looked desperately at Maya, hoping she might say something, show some sign of sisterly support, but she just gave me an apologetic glance before joining in the awkward laughter. Later, when I confronted her in the hotel's powder room, she simply said, "They're just joking. Maybe if you worked harder like I did, they'd be proud of you too." Those words, delivered with such casual cruelty, were the final straw. That night marked the end of my relationship with my family. I'd endured years of being the lesser daughter, but this public declaration of my worthlessness was the final straw. As soon as I got home, I blocked their numbers, deleted their email addresses, and removed them from all my social media accounts. Within a week, I had secured a position at a different tech company across town and threw myself into building a new life. Over the next 3 years I focused entirely on my career and personal growth. I earned multiple promotions, built a strong team, and even started mentoring younger female professionals in the tech industry. My new colleagues appreciated my skills and leadership style, and for the first time in my life I felt truly valued for my abilities. I heard through distant relatives that my parents were concerned about my absence from family gatherings, but their concern never translated into an actual apology. Maya apparently defended their behavior, telling everyone I was being oversensitive and dramatic. She even suggested that my emotional instability was proof that our parents had been right about me all along. Life went on, and I found peace in my independence. I bought a beautiful brownstone in Back Bay, traveled extensively, and built genuine friendships with people who appreciated me for who I am. The weight of constantly trying to prove myself worthy of parental love lifted, and I discovered a sense of self-worth that had nothing to do with comparisons to my sister. Yesterday, after 3 years of silence, I received multiple urgent messages from my parents. The first few came through email, then voicemails on my work phone, and finally text messages from numbers I didn't recognize. They hadn't tried to contact me in months, so I knew something serious must have happened. Despite my better judgment, I unblocked their number and called them back, my heart racing as I prepared myself for whatever news they had. Should I share what they told me? The irony of their situation is almost poetic, and I'm considering a course of action that would finally make them understand the consequences of their behavior. But I want to make sure I'm not letting old wounds cloud my judgment. I've spent the last few hours sitting in my home office, staring at the Boston skyline through my window, contemplating how life can take such unexpected turns. The past 3 years have been transformative for me. I've gone from being the perpetual disappointment to someone my team looks up to. We recently secured a major contract that put our company on the map, and I was instrumental in making it happen. Looking back, I realize how much their constant criticism affected every aspect of my life. In my 20s-30s, I jumped from relationship to relationship, always choosing partners who treated me the same way my parents did, as if I was never quite good enough. It took years of therapy to understand that pattern and break free from it. Even my career choices were influenced by their dismissal of my achievements. Every time I succeeded, I would downplay my accomplishments, almost apologizing for them. When I received my first major promotion, I didn't even tell them because I knew they would somehow turn it into a comparison with Maya's career. The irony is that while they were so focused on maintaining their perfect image and Maya's perfect reputation, they never saw the strength it took to build a career without their support. Every milestone I reached was through my own determination and hard work. While Maya had their connections and financial support, I had to navigate the corporate world entirely on my own. Now, as I prepare to share what my parents told me, I can't help but reflect on how their obsession with perfection and social status has finally come back to haunt them. The universe, it seems, has a sense of humor after all. I'm also wrestling with the realization that despite everything they've done, despite all the years of emotional abuse and public humiliation, a small part of me still cares what happens to my family. Maybe that makes me weak, or maybe it makes me human. Either way, I know the decision I make next will change all our lives forever. Should I tell you what they said? What I'm planning to do. I know some might say I should take the high road, be the bigger person, but after decades of being torn down, after that humiliating speech 3 years ago, maybe it's time for them to understand how it feels to lose everything they value, their reputation, their social standing, their perfect family image. The sun is setting over the Charles River now, casting long shadows across my office. My phone keeps buzzing with more messages from my parents, growing increasingly desperate. They've never had to wait for anything in their lives, and my silence is probably driving them crazy. Good. I think I'm ready to share what they told me and what I plan to do about it. But first I want to be clear. This isn't about revenge. This is about justice, about finally holding them accountable for years of emotional abuse. This is about showing them that their useless second daughter has more power than they ever imagined. Let me know if you want to hear the rest of this story. I promise you it's going to be worth the wait. Update 1. After that first call with my parents, I spent the next few hours piecing together the shocking reality of Maya's situation. What they revealed wasn't just surprising, it was a complete shattering of the perfect image they'd spent decades crafting. According to my parents, Maya has been struggling with severe cocaine addiction. She lost her position at the law firm 3 months ago but managed to hide it from our parents by pretending she was still working. They only discovered the truth when one of their country club friends spotted Maya in a concerning state outside a known drug house in a rundown part of Boston. The most ironic part of this whole situation? Maya apparently started using cocaine to maintain her perfect performance at work. The pressure of being the youngest senior partner, combined with our parents' endless expectations, led her to seek chemical assistance to keep up with the demanding hours and high-pressure environment. When my mother tearfully explained how Maya had drained her entire savings and retirement fund to support her habit, I could hear the shame dripping from her voice. But what struck me most was how even now their primary concern wasn't Maya's health or recovery, it was their reputation. "We can't let anyone at the club know about this," my mother whispered, as if someone might overhear our phone conversation. "What would people think? We've already had to make excuses for why she hasn't been at recent social events." Then came the part that made my blood boil. My father, in his typical fashion, tried to find someone else to blame for their golden child's fall from grace. "You didn't introduce her to drugs back then, did you?" he asked, his voice heavy with accusation. "You were always the rebellious one." I was stunned into silence. Here I was, having had no contact with them or Maya for 3 years, and somehow they were trying to pin this on me. The fact that I've never even used drugs seemed irrelevant to them. In their minds, any problem with their perfect daughter must somehow be the fault of their useless one. My mother quickly chimed in with their real reason for calling. "We need you to come home and help us take care of her," she pleaded. "We can't send her to rehab, people would find out. Maybe you could take a few weeks off work? After all, it's not like your job is as important as what Maya used to do." That last comment, so casually cruel, confirmed that nothing had changed. Even in this crisis they couldn't help but diminish me. But then they revealed something that made their request even more absurd. They had already rejected 2 intervention attempts by Maya's former colleagues, including an offer to quietly arrange private rehabilitation at a discreet facility in Switzerland. "We can't risk anyone finding out," my father explained. "If word gets out that Maya went to rehab, it would destroy our family's reputation. We'd rather handle this internally." Their plan, if you can call it that, was to keep Maya locked up in her old room at their house, with me acting as her full-time caretaker. They seemed to think that their useless daughter could somehow cure their perfect one's drug addiction through sheer willpower and familial duty. When I suggested that addiction requires professional medical intervention, my mother actually scoffed. "Don't be dramatic," she said. "Maya has always been stronger than you. She just needs some family support and she'll bounce back. She's not like other addicts, she's special." The conversation continued in this vein for almost 2 hours. They alternated between blaming me, minimizing the severity of Maya's addiction, and obsessing over how to keep it hidden from their social circle. Not once did they express genuine concern for Maya's well-being, or acknowledge the role their pressure might have played in her downfall. Before ending the call, my father made one final comment that cemented my decision about what to do next. "Remember," he said, "if you refuse to help us with this, you're confirming everything we've ever said about you being useless to this family." I hung up without responding, my mind already formulating a plan. They want to keep this quiet? They're worried about their reputation? Well, perhaps it's time for Boston's elite to see the real face of the family they've admired for so long. As I sit here planning my next move, I can't help but appreciate the irony. They spent years tearing me down to build Maya up, and now they need the daughter they discarded to save the one they worship. But I have something else in mind, something that will finally make them understand the true cost of their actions. Should I share my plan? It's not exactly what most would consider taking the high road, but after everything they've done, maybe the high road isn't the right path this time. Stay tuned for what happens next. I promise you, karma's about to make a spectacular appearance in their perfectly curated lives. Update 2. After much internal debate, I decided to reach out to Maya directly. I wanted to hear her side of the story without our parents filtering. The conversation that followed was both eye-opening and heartbreaking. Maya's voice on the phone was barely recognizable, weak, hesitant, completely unlike the confident sister I remembered. At first she spoke in fragmented sentences, as if assembling her thoughts required immense effort. Then gradually the full story emerged. Her descent into addiction didn't happen overnight. It started shortly after that promotion party where our parents humiliated me. The pressure of being the youngest senior partner, combined with the weight of our parents' expectations, became overwhelming. She was working 90-hour weeks, desperately trying to prove she deserved the position. I couldn't sleep, she confessed. Every case felt like it could be the one where I'd fail, where I'd prove I wasn't really good enough. One of the other partners noticed how exhausted I was and offered me something to help maintain my edge. That something was cocaine. What started as an occasional boost to get through difficult cases evolved into a daily necessity. Maya described how she'd structure her entire day around maintaining the perfect facade while managing her growing dependency. She'd schedule court appearances for the mornings when she was most coherent, take lunch meetings that were actually opportunities to use, and gradually isolated herself from anyone who might notice her deterioration. But the most shocking revelation came when she broke down crying, confessing that watching our parents humiliate me at her party was a turning point for her too. "I saw myself becoming them," she sobbed. "I was so focused on maintaining this image of perfection that I stood there and let them destroy you. I've carried that guilt ever since." She revealed how our parents' constant praise had become a prison. Every accomplishment raised the bar higher. Every success created more pressure to be perfect. "They didn't just ruin your life," she whispered. "They ruined mine too, just in a different way." The conversation shifted to her current situation. She's lost everything. Her job, her savings, her reputation in the legal community. But what terrifies her most is our parents' refusal to let her seek professional help. "They keep saying they can handle it privately," she explained. "But I know I need real treatment. I'm scared I'll die if I don't get help soon." Maya then did something I never expected. She apologized. Not just a superficial "I'm sorry," but a deep, genuine acknowledgement of her role in my pain. She expressed remorse for every time she sided with our parents, for every moment she basked in their praise while watching them tear me down. "You were always the stronger one," she admitted. "You built your life despite them, while I built mine to please them. Look where that got me." The irony of this statement wasn't lost on either of us. As we continued talking, Maya revealed more about our parents' current behavior. They've been micromanaging her decline, more concerned with keeping appearances than getting her help. They've created elaborate lies to explain her absence from social events, even going so far as to stage fake video calls where Maya pretends to be working late, at the office she no longer has access to. The most disturbing part was learning how they've been handling her withdrawal attempts. Instead of seeking medical assistance, they've been treating it like a minor inconvenience. When she experiences severe symptoms, they give her sleeping pills and lock her in her old bedroom. telling the housekeeping staff she has a bad flu. I overheard them discussing what to tell the country club members, Maya said with a bitter laugh. They were more worried about maintaining their standing in the club than whether I might need emergency medical care. By the end of our conversation, I had a clear picture of not just Maya's addiction, but the toxic family dynamic that contributed to it. Our parents hadn't created one successful daughter and one failure. They damaged both of us, just in different ways. I want to get proper help, Maya admitted finally, but I'm terrified of standing up to them. They've controlled every aspect of my life for so long, I don't know how to defy them. That's when I knew exactly what I needed to do. My initial plan for revenge needed modification. Yes, our parents deserve to face consequences for their actions, but I also need to ensure Maya gets the help she desperately needs. I have a new strategy forming, one that will both expose our parents' toxic behavior and secure Maya's path to recovery. It's time to show them that their useless daughter knows exactly how to handle a crisis, even if it means burning down their precious social status in the process. The next update will detail my plan and its execution. Let's just say our parents are about to learn that maintaining appearances shouldn't be their biggest concern right now. Update 3. The execution of my plan was methodical and precise, targeting the thing our parents value most, their social standing in Boston's elite circles. Phase 1 began with the church community. I anonymously sent documentation to their Episcopal Church's Senior Leadership Council. A detailed letter outlining how our parents were actively preventing their daughter from seeking life-saving medical treatment, along with evidence of Maya's current condition. I included their rejection of the Swiss rehabilitation facility offer, emphasizing how they prioritized appearances over their daughter's life. The timing was perfect, right before the annual church fundraising committee meeting, which my mother had chaired for the past 15 years. The council's response was swift. They not only removed her from the committee but also initiated a formal discussion about the Christian duty to support family members in crisis. The Sunday sermon about a pride coming before a fall was particularly pointed, with many congregation members openly staring at my parents' usual pew, which was conspicuously empty. Phase 2 targeted their professional network. I systematically reached out to key partners at Maya's former law firm, expressing deep concern about our parents' handling of the situation. The firm, already worried about potential liability, quickly distanced themselves. They issued a formal statement clarifying that Maya had resigned for personal reasons months ago, effectively destroying our parents' carefully crafted fiction about her still working there. The country club phase was particularly satisfying. I didn't have to do much, just ensured that the right people overheard the right conversations. The gossip spread like wildfire through the club's elite membership. The same social circles that had laughed at my humiliation 3 years ago were now whispering about the irony of the situation. But the masterstroke came through Mother's precious junior league connections. I arranged for their annual charity gala, usually hosted at our parents' house, to be relocated due to concerns about the home environment. The message was clear. Their standing in Boston's social hierarchy was crumbling. As their carefully constructed social world imploded, I implemented the second part of my plan. Working with Maya's former colleagues, I secured her a place at an exclusive rehabilitation facility in Arizona. Far from Boston's prying eyes, it offered her the chance to recover without our parents' toxic influence. The facility's administrative director, after hearing about our parents' interference with previous rehabilitation attempts, agreed to list Maya under an alias. This ensured our parents couldn't manipulate or sabotage her treatment process. When Maya arrived at the facility, she sent me a brief message. "Thank you for being strong enough to do what I couldn't." It was the first step in her journey to recovery, both from addiction and from our parents' suffocating expectations. Our parents' reaction to their social downfall was exactly as I predicted. They called me repeatedly, alternating between rage and desperate pleading. Father's final voicemail was particularly revealing. "How dare you destroy everything we built? We gave you life and this is how you repay us?" I replied with a single text message. "Consider this my repayment for your years of the parenting. Your reputation is experiencing the same thing you did to my self-worth, systematic destruction. How does it feel to be seen as useless in your social circle?" The fallout continues to spread through Boston's elite social circles. Our parents, once celebrated figures at every significant social event, now find themselves quietly uninvited from major functions. Their calls go unreturned. Their usual dinner reservations at exclusive restaurants are mysteriously lost. The whispers and sideways glances they desperately tried to avoid have become their new reality. Last week I received an unexpected email from Maya's therapist at the rehabilitation center. With Maya's permission, she shared that my sister is making remarkable progress. Free from our parents' toxic expectations and finally receiving professional help, she's beginning to understand how their obsession with perfection contributed to her addiction. The therapist also mentioned something that brought tears to my eyes. Apparently Maya keeps a photo from our childhood on her bedside table, one taken before our parents' expectations poisoned our relationship. She looks at it every morning as motivation for her recovery, hoping to rebuild the sisterly bond we once had. As for our parents, they've reportedly fled to their summer house in the Berkshires, unable to face their humiliation in Boston. Their last attempt at damage control, a lengthy email to their social circle claiming they were misunderstood, only made things worse. Someone, not me for once, leaked it to their entire country club membership, leading to their official suspension from the club. Yesterday, I received a letter from one of my mother's oldest friends, a woman who had witnessed my humiliation at Maya's promotion party. She expressed deep regret for not speaking up that night and acknowledged how the community had enabled our parents' toxic behavior for years. Her letter ended with a quote that perfectly summed up the situation. Sometimes the most loving thing we can do is let someone face the consequences of their actions. Some might say my revenge was too harsh, that I should have found a gentler way to handle the situation. But I disagree. Our parents spent decades building their reputation on the foundation of cruelty and emotional abuse. They used their social standing as a weapon to maintain control and enforce their twisted version of perfection. Now they're experiencing what they inflicted on me, the painful reality of being seen as a disappointment by their peers. Maya continues to make progress in rehabilitation, free from our parents' suffocating presence. She's starting to imagine a future where she defines success on her own terms, not through our parents' warped lens. We're slowly rebuilding our relationship, healing together from the damage our parents inflicted. As for me, I've finally found peace. The useless daughter turned out to be the one who could orchestrate both justice and salvation. I've proven that success isn't measured by social status or parental approval, but by the strength to stand up for what's right, even when it costs you everything. Our parents wanted to maintain appearances at all costs. Well, they got their wish. Now everyone sees them for exactly who they are.